Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Esports Weekly. Week 8 of the Pro League has just finished yesterday, and now we're heading into Week 9. There's only 2 weeks left to determine which 6 teams from each regions are heading to the Super Regionals, and eventually the top 5 teams from among them to the Smite World Championship.
Now this week, for me, is split week.
Oh!
There's no free FP. It's free FP split week, I guess, is the best way of putting it.
It's free FP week if all your predictions are going right, and it's 100% guaranteed.
That's every week, then.
No,
every week.
So who's ready for some split FP soup?
I don't even want to know. But guys, like we said, this is all leading up to the Smite World Championship, and you can actually purchase your tickets now online at swc.smitegame.com. The SWC 2016 is going to be taking place between January 7th and 10th, and it's going to be 10 teams representing 5 regions from around the world.
Not only that is my favorite opportunity.
Is the cosplay
competition.
You and me and Hindu are actually, or excuse me, Hindu and I for Adam, because he's going to be.
That's true.
He'll have me for it. Hindu and I are actually going to dress up as different Bacchuses, because there's $20,000 actually at this year's SWC in cosplay competition prize money.
20 grand?
20 grand. And it's all split. It's like among different groups. Like last year was just like a single best in show. But now there's a best in show. There's a best group. There's a best youth. A best gender bent cosplay.
Ooh.
Oh, that's what we could do too. We can gender bent Aphrodite skins.
I'll do Afro. I'm quite happy with that.
I want. Which one do I want?
I don't want
majestic
anything
one.
to do with
That's gonna be good.
Talking about the best though, Alpha Draft is the next thing to talk about, where you can go over and win real money playing fantasy esports. And if you want to actually do well there, you're generally looking at the top teams of NA and EU.
Yeah, most of the top performers are typically coming from Epsilon and Envy, but those players sometimes they're pretty expensive. You get your amount to spend on your roster, and you can't get all Epsilon and all Envy.
You just pick
they're
a
too
team
expensive,
and then
have them carry you.
Like you just for Epsilon every week.
So. Don't forget, it's not exactly the wins and losses. It's about the stats inside the game.
Yes.
So the top teams, you can find some gems, some diamonds in the rough in the middle of the pack. If somebody goes 15-1, it doesn't matter if they're in the 7th place team. They're gonna get you a bazillion FP. So go for it.
Week 9 of the Pro League, though. Let's take a look at the schedule before we really get into it and break down our picks for this week. Starting off, it's going to be a strong week, guys. These are some important matchups. Titan taking on London Conspiracy, going to be opening up Week 9, followed by Envy taking on Eager.
Normally I'd look through the list and be like, you don't really have to worry too much about missing 1 or 2 of these games, but every game this week to all these teams is important, and there's some very big matchups here.
Yeah, so we've already got one team that's sort of clinching their spot into regionals as far as their seed and everything, and we'll talk a little bit about that team when we get there. In fact, they're right up on top, 23-1. Epsilon Esports, congratulations. They'll be your #1 seed for Europe heading into the Super Regionals. And everybody else, some teams might have sort of solidified their fact that they're going, but we don't know how they're going. So we'll save all that fun stuff for next week.
I mean, all you need to know about EU is LC up is definitely going. We just don't know what order, other than Epsilon's going to be first seed.
After that, it's Dig versus Myrmidons really battling that out for that 6th seed. Let's take a look at North America, though. Envy, they haven't secured first seed, but they're looking real strong. They're 4 points above, and actually Cognitive Gaming, they're going up and down.
They can't decide which place they want to be in right now. I mean, I guess that's moving around head-to-head record as well.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's funny. But the graphic, this is probably one of the truest graphics we've ever seen. The whole season, we've had Enemy and Cognitive really switching positions, and it's anybody's guess. Both of these teams have...
Even Denial still in the running for it, though.
Yeah, that's true. But I think Enemy and Cognitive, we've seen Cognitive come out and absolutely annihilate the competition and then get annihilated. And we've seen the same thing from Enemy as well. These teams they're so up and down. Nobody really knows what to expect. So those are always some of the more exciting games to watch.
Bringing it a little bit back to EU, though, we're opening the week with Titan versus London Conspiracy. And London Conspiracy, they're confirmed for LAN, but they might be looking to improve their seedings here.
Seeding very important for all the teams here. Titan and LC, they're around the 4th, 5th position right now, which is where they stand. But the problem being is that if you're 4th, you're going to be on Epsilon's side of the bracket right now when it comes to Super Regionals. It's not a place you'd like to be. So potentially pushing yourself up to 3rd is where you really want to be looking at doing. And to be able to do that, well, Titan and LC, last time they faced off, it was a split. And both teams are going to look in for the 2 out here.
Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to it, it's really what you were talking about. The seeding is very important.
Yep.
Fourth place will have to go up against the number 1 seed, and not for nothing, 1 is taken off the table by Epsilon, but the number 2 seed, you also get a bye. So very important that these teams really try their hardest in the last couple of weeks of competition.
Titan, they've really been struggling recently, though. They've lost Confrey, or they benched him, and he has since left the team. They've moved Ataraxia back to Hunter, and they brought in really their new ranked all-star player in Brotus. And we've seen teams successfully do that, most notably Cloud9 with Baskin. However, they don't have that many weeks to prepare for Super Regionals. They don't have a full split. How do you guys really feel like this is going to affect Titan?
Well, for Titan, it's a little bit interesting because you're not only replacing a single player, but you're also doing a huge role swap at the same time. Ataraxia, originally from the Hunter position, he's going to be coming out of the solo lane into the Hunter position, and it should be relatively simple, but there's going to be a readjustment period of time because it was a whole split that we saw Ataraxia play a different position.
Speaking of split, we're going to take a look at the predictions, and I'm pretty sure across the board, 50-50. Hindu Man, where are you looking at?
I'm going 50-50 because there's also a little bit about LC as well, which we've not mentioned just yet. But London Conspiracy, Soggy Sandal has actually benched himself into the sub role, and Cherio is now going to be a starter for the team. This was confirmed by Defiance last week to me. And so both teams have had roster changes yet again and having to deal with that. It split last time round. It's going to split again. I don't see it going any other way.
I do have a note.
To go for the split.
I do have a single note about Cherio is he's been, they have this roster switch, but Cherio's been playing the past 2 weeks. It's not like he's just coming in and this is confirmed. Cherio has been playing to much success on this roster.
Exactly. He's been playing, he's practiced all 5 positions and has always been ready for a sub or ready to sub in for London Conspiracy. When they needed him, he turned up and honestly was a big part of their performance in that first week. And we've seen him continue on. So this is a swap, but it's not as hard of a swap because he's already been acclimated to the team. He's been on the team and he's played with the team. So I don't think we'll see too much stuttering coming out from them, and Titan generally splits.
There's been a lot of roster changes in almost every single team in the Pro League, but 2 teams who have remained solid, all fall split, and actually I believe even the summer split, Envy taking on Eager. This is a big game. This one is probably the matchup of the week. I don't think that's been determined yet, but there's a number of them. But Envy versus Eager split last time. What are we looking at for this one, Tom?
I think it's a very similar situation. Envy right now is they've proved that they're not quite unbeatable. They're not quite the 21-1 behemoth that Epsilon is. So there are some chinks in the armor here. They're definitely the top team and have performed fantastically. But a team like Eager, who has done very much the same, I think definitely has what it takes to take down this team. I don't think either of them really lean in either direction as far as advantage is concerned. So I think this one winds up being a split down the middle with Envy taking game 2.
This could go either way. We've both gone split again. Obviously, all 3 of us have gone split, and I completely understand why. Both these teams, Eager for me, this is their best best split so far this year. They've had a great performance for themselves. They've really started to find back to the old days of Dignitas. They've gone all the way back then, managed to find what they used to have.
We have these splits, and sometimes we talk about how much we expect it. Maybe it'll go one way or the other. Do you have any feeling? We think it's going to be 1-1.
I'm stuck. I'm stuck at 1-1. There's no way I can look at... To be fair, Envy, you've got to give them a slight advantage just because of their performance throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
But Eager during the split have been just so strong and performed so well against some of the bigger teams that you can't discredit them. You can't exactly turn around and go, well, maybe Envy will take the edge. But Eager, they've taken some big games too.
Almost confidence coming from Eager, really the kind of what pushed them over that gap. I think really going to the finals of the COG Invitational and bringing Cloud9 to all 5 games, it just seems coming out of that mid-split Invitational, they seem just refreshed. They seem like the number 2 seeded team in North America. Both of those teams, though, are confirmed for LAN in North America. Seedings could switch. Moving on to Friday, Justice are actually a team that is completely out of it, and they're facing off against a Fnatic squad who is looking to try and move up. Right now, they're 3rd behind Paradigm. They need to try and surpass them, but I think this is going to be a pretty clean win.
There's not much to talk about with this one, honestly. It's Fnatic 2-0 for me, and I'm pretty sure if you guys haven't go 2-0, you need to get off this desk right now. Because Fnatic, they need the wins, they want the wins, they're going to get the wins.
Yeah.
I don't see Justice. Maybe they'll put on a performance and have semi-decent games, but Fnatic will still win this.
Well, see, here's the thing for me. Fnatic clear 2-0. But.
There's
the but.
What's the but?
Justice are completely out of it. They have nothing to lose. Going a weird jank comp with 5 assassins to take people out and do something weird, that's totally on the table.
When you have nothing to lose, you almost play
But to be fair,
unhinged.
Justice have one thing that they want to try and do this split, right? Which is better than the last 2 splits, and that's not be 8th.
Well, no.
Because like the last 2 splits, London Conspiracy, sorry, not London Conspiracy,
Sure,
Uncovered
it's true.
Stars was last, both splits. Night's Watch defeated them the last split last time round to take away that 7th position that they held all season long. They don't want to be 8th if they can help it.
It's just such a different feeling playing when you have absolutely nothing to lose. There's no chance of going to land, so you don't have that. You don't have the weight on your shoulders of, oh, we have to win this. And, you know, just playing spoiler sometimes can really revitalize a team.
That's a
So
good point.
don't be surprised if Justice turn up or anything. But I think this is very clearly a 2-0.
Justice are out of it, but I believe Elevate are out of it too, and that's the other matchup we're going to be seeing on Friday. Cloud9 taking on Elevate, and Cloud9, you know, this was a team that we also felt like Eager seemed revitalized coming out of the COG Invitational, but they've dropped some critical games and some, you know, it's kind of dropped them in the standings, right? We thought this would be the team that would rise and challenge Eager, but loses a game to COG last week puts them in a rough spot because as of right now, they're 4th seed and on the same side as Envy.
Yeah, I mean, for Cloud9, the split between COG, I think it was able to be... I think you could see that from a distance. There's a lot of sort of problems that Cloud9 have really exemplifying. They're not perfect, but coming up against Elevate, I don't think this squad has to be perfect. We've definitely underestimated Elevate before, but I think Cloud9 has this 2-0.
I agree. I think Cloud9 has this 2-0. Take into account Elevate did find those 2 wins against TSM, but that was out straight after a roster switch as well. So against a more established team as Cloud9 have been, and COG are a good team. You know, they split against Cloud9, but for me, it's going to be Cloud9 against Elevate.
Moving on to Saturday, Epsilon taking on Titan. Now, Epsilon, they've secured 1st seed, and they've already said they might try some spicy stuff, but how spicy are they going to get, do you guys think?
The big key, I'll take this off you, because the big key here is going to be where they would like the brackets to kind of amalgamate themselves.
That's true.
Right? They're not going to throw games, I guarantee you that. They're not going to throw games or press F6 just because they want to change the standings, but they may play something unconventional. They may test the waters with gods they've not really used before, but they've been doing that all season long anyway.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you could say unconventional, you could say experiment. Epsilon started the split by playing Thanatos support. I don't really think anything's really
Not fall
changed.
split. That was like
that was
spring
summer
or
split.
summer or something.
That was summer split. But, I mean, Epsilon has done things that make you raise an eyebrow, and then they win with it. So I don't really expect anything too different out of Epsilon. Because don't forget, sure, they're already set to go, but you can practice all you want in scrims. It's very different on the big stage, and you only get so many of these games before Super Regionals. You're going to want to be hot going into this. Don't expect these teams to have too much fun outside of regular gameplay.
For me, I want to do one point before we get into predictions here. It's Titan. I actually recently looked back on their games all season 2, and they actually have not taken a set off a top team. They haven't 2-0'd Epsilon, Fnatic, or Paradigm all season. I'm not talking fall split, I'm talking summer split, I'm talking spring split and qualifiers. They did have one match, but that was when iRapper was banned, and they were actually losing that match at first until Epsilon got frustrated because they didn't have their leader and F6, but they haven't 2-0'd anyone. They are struggling.
Yeah. I mean, Titan has been the team of the splits, pretty much. I've seen a couple of people say that on Twitter.
I think the gloss is worn off Titan now. I mean, the storyline last year before Worlds was the rise of this challenger team that came all the way up, surpassed everybody in the Pro League, and the teams were expecting the sort of teamwork and communication. But this year, the EU stepped it up again. And all those top teams have found out exactly what Titan do. They've worked out how to deal with them and put them in a box to an extent. They're in a good place, but for me, Epsilon should win this.
I've got a 2-0 as well. Epsilon, a little bit too strong. Probably some spicy things, but I think even then they're going to come out on top. Coming up after that, though, Dignitas taking on London Conspiracy, and this is Dignitas' chance to actually qualify for LAN. They are the only spot in contention. A 2-0 for Dignitas here secures them for LAN, although seeding still pending. If they 1-1 or 0-2, they allow Myrmidons to have the chance to catch up.
Well, these are kills on the board for Dignitas during that game, but it's LC that went 2-0 in this last time they faced off against each other, is the big note to make here. I would like to go 2-0 Dig because I expect not necessarily the drama, but the passion they're going to have to try and make LAN here will edge them on. But after falling 2-0 previously to them, I can't see it going that way, so the best I could come up with was a split for this one.
See, I feel you. And I was really agreeing with you until you said "but" there, Hindu Man. I think that the passion here for Dignitas as they try to get into the LAN is a real thing. Just talking to the guys after we expanded Super Regionals from 4 teams to 6, they were so revitalized. And for some teams, that emotional momentum means more than others. And for Dignitas, it's a huge deal. Sure, LC might have 2-0'd them last time around, but last time around, I don't think anybody is going to say that the Dignitas they've seen in the past couple of weeks, barring the week that they played against number 1 and 2 seeds, has been a largely different team than we saw in the beginning of the season. So between the improvements that they've made over the fall split and this powerful emotional momentum, I think Dignitas can take this 2-0 and get themselves into Super Regionals.
Tom claiming that Dignitas secures their spot. Moving on to North America on Saturday, Denial versus Envy. This one, I think we're going to make it pretty quick here. Yep. Denial, I think this is where their chance at LAN ends.
Envy, super strong. Denial, they've won some games. They haven't been, they have had some things to rest their hat on, so to speak, this fall split. They haven't really been a disappointment, but unfortunately, I think Envy is just a little too strong for them.
Picked up 1 or 2 games this weekend that went well for them. They're starting to get their roster together, but I think we're getting against teams like, what they're up against today, Envy. And Envy are going to be looking, like we said, to secure a number 1 seed, right? Coming into this. If we say at the start of the week that we think Envy's going to split with Eager, you have to expect Envy going to want 2-0 here to solidify their possible position as number 1 seed coming out of North America. Envy 2-0.
A 2-0 for Envy will end Denial's chance at LAN. That's what we're looking at across the board there. Moving on to the final game of Saturday, it's going to be Eager versus Enemy. And Enemy, the team, we keep talking about it, but we have to bring it back up. They started 7-2, now they're 10-14. I mean, it's just such a long fall. And 2 of those wins, after their first 7 wins, were against Elevate. So a lot of struggle coming out of Enemy in the second half of the split.
Enemy, for me, I mean, I was harshly realistic early in the season when Enemy was 7-2.
We all were.
And I just kind of sat here and was like, look, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and the other shoe did drop. And I think this team has some talent on it, but it definitely needs some more time in the oven to really bake together. Coming in towards the end of the season, Enemy versus Eager, I think this is a clear 2-0. Enemy have some things to work on. I expect to see them in the springtime, and maybe even step it up just a little bit.
Communication on that team is the strongest factor for Enemy. They're going to be up against Eager, though, who have been together a very, very long time for the most part, at least the core of the 3. A couple of switches there for Eager, but they only took 2-0 off Enemy this season. I don't see it going any other way again, so I'm going Eager.
Yeah, I have Eager as well, and for me, Adjust has done a fantastic job stepping in for Wiggles, in my opinion, but Enemy still not able to close out games, I feel. A lot of times their matches are going 35, 40 minutes. They're always going to the late game, and they're never, losing severely. It just seems that the other teams, once it reaches that mark, just whatever it is, whether experience or individual skill, is overcoming them.
There's credit in that with the over 30 minutes as well.
Oh, no, they're
because
fantastic.
That means it's against other high-level teams that they're expected to lose against, are at least going more than 30 minutes against them, which means they're taking teams to later on in the game, which is a really good thing to have. But it also means they're not closing the games out as quick as they potentially could in winning situations. I'm pretty certain in the Pro League, in both EU and NA, they have the longest games.
Oh, overall. I could see that. I'm sure it's probably like 2 or 3, maybe 4 minutes above the average.
Average is like 30. The average is about 27, and I think they're about 32.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Sunday, though, we're going to open it up strong. Another potential match of the week. Fnatic taking on Paradigm. Both these teams on really huge upswings, and the Warrior meta, for me, has really benefited Trixtank.
Yeah, I mean, that's always where we look towards when it comes to Warrior metas. Trixtank is the Warrior support, pretty much.
He is, but the one thing I want to take out of this, guys, this is the one for me. If either of these teams 2-0 the other one, they're my number 2 for Worlds. They are my 2nd seed for Worlds from EU, guaranteed. These are the 2 that I expect to see have to battle it out for that 2nd spot at Worlds, and this game will give a great insight into how that's going to be. That's the big key here between these 2. And I'm going to split because I can't pick either of them. But I do know that if one of them do 2-0, that's my number 2 for Worlds.
Yeah, this is a fantastic preview at some of the more high-end action you're going to see, not just at Super Regionals, but also at Worlds. I think that Fnatic might be the more...
They're both tenured. You can't really say tenured. They're both.
No. I was gonna say talented, because sometimes we see the individual players of Fnatic step up more so than Paradigm, but Paradigm does that as a unit. So it's really just hard to say anything but a split here. If somebody wants them 2-0, I think they're a favorite for.
It's funny because past LAN performances, the last two splits that we've had LANs held here, we've seen Paradigm get to the finals in the last one. The one and Fnatic didn't do very well at all. The one previously, Paradigm did awfully at that LAN, and Fnatic did very, very well. So this could go either way. This has been the story of both these teams this year. If Epsilon were in the mix, these were my 1 and 2 seeds coming out of EU.
All I know is this is one of those games where I sit there and I go, man, I really hope I cast this, but at the same time, I want somebody else to cast this so I can just watch.
I just want to watch
sit there
it.
like
Yeah.
this. You know, it's so up in the air. This might be my personal match.
I almost like it's so hard. There's so many good games.
Yeah.
We're going really the opposite end of the spectrum. Two of the top two in Europe to the bottom two facing off next. Myrmidons versus Justice. And at first glance, this matchup doesn't really seem important, but it's actually very critical for Myrmidons because I want to talk about how these standings are in Europe. Right now, Dignitas has 8 wins. Myrmidons have 5. Now, if Dignitas 2-0 London Conspiracy earlier that week, they will secure their land spot. If they 1-1 or 0-2, Myrmidons have full control of their own destiny because they can 2-0 Justice, and then in the final week, Dignitas and Myrmidons will face off. That's 4 potential wins for them to catch up and either tie or just straight up beat Dignitas.
That's not even the storyline for me. The storyline for me is #don't be 8th. That's the storyline. This is what that game is all about. Loser is going to be 8th. That's my call. Or potentially 8th is the best way.
Okay. That is true. And it's funny. You said we went from sort of the top 2 to the bottom 2, and that's very true as far as the individual skill. But it's about the matchup. It's very easy to forget when you watch number 1 versus number 8 that the 8th seeded team is still some of the best of the best of the best in the world.
They're better. They don't sash jungle camps with Naja.
So when you watch 8 and 7 seeds come and fight together, it's still exciting Smite. Yeah. So, you know, I think these are the matches I enjoy. When it comes to the spread ones, all right, maybe I don't pay as much attention. But the close matches, these are the exciting ones. And because of that, I think this is a split. I think both of these teams are very similarly talented, and we're going to see some good Smite.
I've got a split. I mean, the start of the season, Myrmidons did beat Justice in this matchup, but Myrmidons, their passion's gone. I want to say their passion is really good.
That is clear, I think, in their game.
They've lost the will to live to an extent with this Pro League. It's not worked out for them well. And I don't even think they're going to challenge Dignitas for that 6th spot anymore. I don't think it's going to be possible. And a split here will pretty much define them.
They are role swapping consistently. Fails moved over to Hunter. Dardes was jungling. I don't know if that was like a God-based thing.
They're a good team. They're trying stuff, but not this split.
Maybe that's why they are experimenting, right?
Exactly.
If they've submitted that they are not qualifying for LAN, even though they do have a chance still, maybe it's just let's switch up our roles. Let's see if we can make something work.
Don't be 8th.
Don't be 8th. It's the battle for the bottom. Next up, really a historic classic. TEAMSOLOMID taking on Cloud9. And I'm actually really disappointed in myself because normally I'll do my due diligence and like, all right, what's the historic matchup between these two teams? I remember during the summer finals, I looked it up. It was like 11-14 in TEAMSOLOMID's favor.
Wow.
Like it is. These teams have been battling it out since post-launch tournament is really when I started keeping track. These teams.
They've had name changes.
They're just like the best.
They've had name changes.
They've been the best in North America.
They were both on Cognitive at one point as sister teams or brother teams, whichever way you want to put it. Those guys have been around together for a while, scrimmed each other's scrim partners, then away from each other, then maybe back together again, then away from each other. But they've not played together against each other this season as well, so this will be the first time we get to see these two in actual action.
Yeah, the last time was forfeit matches, so we didn't really get to see them fight.
This is the first time we get to see them this split, and it's going to be very exciting to see this one because it's dependent on position standings for seeding for the LAN again.
You do not want to be 4th in North America.
No. So you got to take. Well, it's exciting. I like this matchup specifically. As you guys said, it's the first time we really get to see it. TSM recently have changed things around, whereas I mean. Cloud9 2 as well with Baskin, but that was earlier, that was the whole split. We've seen that situation. TEAMSOLOMID, they had to swap back to their positions. They invited an old teammate who, honestly, Boosh has looked like one of the better players on TSM. For me, it's very exciting to see Baskin versus Sobek in that solo lane. I mean, Bickham, my mistake. That solo lane is really what I'm going to be looking at. TEAMSOLOMID versus Cloud9 is definitely a match you don't want to miss.
I do want to mention, you said it was the solo Beck, right? We actually have seen Bickham play fantastic on Sobek. Like his Sobek is phenomenal. It's one of the highest levels you can get. but we haven't really seen that success
Sure.
translate to other gods. Most notably because he hasn't played too many other gods. But is this something that Team SPL might have to worry about?
I don't think so. I think it's a great joke and it's very funny. But at the end of the day, Sobek is killing it.
He's not played that many games.
Yeah.
Like, he came on the roster. He came on the roster late. Came to the solo lane. He's had a few games, and he majority picked Sobek. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
But we see that like Maniac picked Hercules for half a season. Nobody ever complained about that. But we all know he had another god pull, you know.
Yeah,
So I'm not gonna discredit Beckham just yet on the fact that his god pull's small, because it's like, well, you play more games, you'll see more gods.
Yeah, if he's doing as well as he is, there's no reason to switch it up just because. If it fits in the comp, why not go for it? So I'm going to continue to make jokes, but it's not any way, shape, or form shade. It's just hilarious.
But the good news is it's split FP week.
Yeah, it's across the
you.
board. We have a.
Oh, wait, you go
Whoa!
Yeah.
Okay. So where is this coming from? Where is Cloud9 going to win this matchup at?
So Bickham has really been a great role player for the team, whereas Baskin has sort of come in and has had these moments where he's the cornerstone of a win. And I haven't really seen that out of Bickham just yet. There could be a ton of variables. Like we said, he just joined, so it might be a warm-up phase or whatnot. I think the solo lane out of Mr. Kim, out of Baskin, I think is just very strong. And as a whole, I think Cloud9, I think they're just a little bit more dialed in. So I think C9
You say
takes
that,
this
and then
2-0.
Beckham's going to pull out something crazy in the solo.
I invite it.
That's
I
where
would
the
love
50-50 is
it.
going to come
I want to
from.
see Anubis.
No,
Bickham, I want
calm-
to see
calm
Anubis.
down.
Please make
Calm
it.
down.
I want to see it happen.
Calm down.
That'd be so incredible. Final game, though, of the really critical Week 9. It's going to be Cognitive Gaming taking on Elevate, and Cog proving that they are a top contender in North America, repeatedly taking big wins off top teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any question anymore. We started the season, and everybody was unsure where this team would land. I think that I've said many times that this team winds up beating themselves more than they get beat by other teams, pretty much, and that's still the case. But at the end of the day, I think Cognitive is one of those. They're not an upper echelon team because of what I mentioned, but they're almost there. I think Cog takes Elevate 2-0 easy peasy.
I've got to take Elevate for me as well. I don't see going any other way, but for, like he said earlier, Tom, that's a bit rude. Like he said earlier, I really feel Cognitive most of the time do beat themselves when they lose games. I don't think it's the other way around, really. I mean, against the real high teams, yeah, they drop a game or two, but it's tough competition. But then now and again, they'll lose because they make the mistakes themselves.
Yeah, Cog by 2-0 here can also qualify themselves for LAN.
Ooh.
They don't really have to worry about denial and whether they can beat TEAMSOLOMID or Envy. So that's actually going to be it for all the predictions in Week 9. Let's take a look at the top performers we've seen so far. All split, and it's Epsilon with... Oh, actually, Incon was up there for quite some time.
Yeah.
He has slowly been kind of inched off. Only Cyclone's been
Is that a
remaining
is that
in
a
North
4
America.
to 1 EU?
So who's the feeder?
4 to 1?
Who's the feeder? Dimmy? Dimmy's the
I
feeder.
guess. And so for what it's
Feeder.
worth,
Doesn't really just doesn't get involved in kills.
EU has been killing it in the alpha draft. They're also killing it in top 5.
Gonna kill it at Worlds as well. And the wild cards.
We'll see. We'll see. They've got the juice when it comes to regular season. There's 2 more
NA's
weeks
done.
of this split.
You've had your year,
Week
NA.
9 and 10. I don't know, man. We'll see how it
EU's
goes.
turn.
What do you feel? Come on, Tom.
What post? I
Give
mean,
me the NA pride.
we're not even
Don't just let
there.
him just run. Don't let him run amok.
Go NA.
Oh my God, so bad. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me, Tom, and Hindu
Ooh.
during the F Weekly. Excuse me, the the Esports Weekly. See you guys next week for the conclusion of the fall split.
NA is gonna win.
Great NA bias, son. Great NA bias.
Standing by.
Hey, Brad. Hey, Brad. Can we get a T-shirt gun for Worlds?
Yo, a t-shirt, good.
All right.
Hello,
All I
ladies
know is
and
I'm
gentlemen.
really
Welcome
happy
back
because
to
you
week
clearly have thought about
9
it.
of the Esports Weekly. Yeah. Welcome back to the Esports Weekly, week 9 of the Pro League. It's about to start.
We done?
I heard the graphic.
I heard the graphic. Ike.
I hope some of this has been recorded.
Monday, Monday,
Especially that cackle.